are far worse things waiting man than death.
You will be scared shitless.
Good evening. This is S. Michael, and with me, as always, is
Aaron Dawn.
Slinky Jallo.
And we are the Scared Shitless podcast, coming up on episode 15, 16, 17, something like that. We'll sort it all out in post. But in the meantime, we have a very, very special show today. With us are surprise guests Adam Marcus of Jason Goes to Hell and Secret Santa fame, and Michael Felsher, who has recently directed Hearts of Darkness, the documentary about Jason Goes to Hell, and has a whole bunch of other awesome horror documentaries to his credit. So welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to be here. Big time.
Yep, absolutely. Nice to be here.
So I should tell our audience that this is a big departure for us. We normally do like a retrospective. The Scared Shitless podcast, the rule of the show is that whatever movie we talk about, and we usually just do one film per show, we go through it chronologically, and then we talk about what made it actually scary. So I'm super excited because there are actually scary things in Jason Goes to Hell and in Secret Santa, and I want to talk about those. And I also want to ask both of you what the scariest movie you've ever seen is. But Slinky and Aaron, I want you guys to chime in too about your history with Adam. And yeah, just go for it.
Adam, so I met Adam through Slink, obviously. And, you know, you've always been one of those like cheerleaders for us, for our relationship, and for Slink with getting his leg and, you know, learning how to walk again and everything. Yeah. So we absolutely adore you. And yeah, I'm getting choked up. But no, I'm a huge fan of Jason Goes to Hell. I'm a really big fan of Secret Santa. You know, like I love Secret Santa. I just can't say enough about how much I love Secret Santa. And I just learned that Michael, you know, did one of my favorite documentaries, which is Just Desserts, the Creepshow doc, which I absolutely love. I watched it with my mom. So yeah, that's my background with Adam. Here's my significant other.
Adam and I allegedly robbed an armed car in the 90s. No. Allegedly. You see the air quotes? Yes. No, Adam, Jason Goes to Hell was the first Friday the 13th movie I saw in a theater, so it's very special. And then I had an opportunity to have him on my comic book show a long time ago, and like a saint, he said, yeah, I'll come on and talk to you and be a nerd. And we hit it off, and he's just a great human being. And love this guy. So me and Adam goes deep, man.
Well, I love the two of you very much.
Yes, before Adam responds to all that, Adam, I also want to tell everybody how much of a mensch you are. I almost had you on this show with Slinky and Aaron 2 or 3 years ago, and it fell through because I had a mental health crisis. My best friend committed suicide, and I had a psychotic break, and everybody knows about it, and you knew about it, but you didn't say anything. You treated me with respect and dignity, despite the walls of text that I sent you about all my great movie ideas and all the things. And I just can't tell you enough how much I appreciate that. I've turned a corner. I've turned things around. Things are going great for the show and in my life and in my career. But I just wanted everybody to know, you know, what a great human being you are. And to that end, I also wanted to bring up the convention that you rescued a couple of years ago that had fallen through, that you got with Kane and did you guys' own thing. And everybody who wasn't able to go to that convention was still able to meet you and Kane and have a great time. So just thank you so much for, you know, all you do for the horror community and for horror fans, you know, in general, on a personal level. Thank you so much for all that.
Thank you. Thanks, man. No, look, by the way, first off, Michael is going to be so completely uncomfortable with all of this love that's being given to me, because he's going to be like, Jesus, I know where all the bodies are buried, you idiots. That said, yeah, see? That said, Look, guys, here's the deal. I think that anybody who acts above the fray when you are in our genre, I think any creator who somehow is either too busy or too important or too whatever to actually hang and be a fan, I don't understand it. I think that legitimate horror people, legitimate people who love this genre, we started as fans. We never end being fans. If you stop being a fan, then you shouldn't be doing this anymore because you lost the thread of why you got into it for the first place. And for me, look, when I was very, very little, when I was an infant, in fact, my dad worked in New York City. My parents lived in Connecticut. My dad worked in New York, and he ran his own company and was just starting out, and he turned it into something extraordinary. But he had to be in New York for ridiculous hours, and so he wouldn't get home till 10, 10:30, 11:30 at night back home to Connecticut. And so my mom would keep me up so that I could see him, so that I could spend time with my pop. And because of that, I ended up watching Johnny Carson my whole growing up. Literally, like, every night was with Johnny Carson. And I remember early on, and this is one of my first memories, that Johnny was asked about meeting the fans. And Johnny Carson was famous for, like, he never had an entourage, he never had bodyguards, he just walked through Los Angeles as just a person, and he never turned down somebody for an autograph. He never turned down a person who needed to talk to him or hang out for a minute. And his response to it was, look, and I'm paraphrasing, it takes just as long to be kind as it does to be an asshole.
Yeah.
That stuck with me from being 3 years old. I remember that vividly. And I remember thinking, anyone who is kind to me is going to get kindness in return. Plain and simple. And the truth is that the three of you have been nothing but kind to me. And that gets returned. And honestly, as long as that becomes a self-perpetuating engine, then you just end up with people that really like each other and respect each other, and you hang. So it's the way I am about my friends, it's the way I am about my family, and it's the way I am about you guys. So, yeah, and you are my friends. What's remarkable is that Michael Felsher and I have remained close, even though almost none of that has occurred between the two of us. So that's extraordinary.
How did you guys meet? I would love to know that.
Michael, you handsome bastard.
Audible pause.
Literally, he's proving my point. Go on, sir.
We met many years ago, or actually it's only a few years ago. It just seems like it's been many years.
Really does feel that way.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness. I had to audition to be the director of this documentary because originally they had another director on board. And for reasons not really worth getting into, basically it just boils down to creative differences. They parted ways with that director, and a mutual friend, Peter Bracke, of course, wrote Crystal Lake Memories and was also writing all the questions and doing a lot of the interviewing for the documentary. And they had shot pretty much all the interviews already at this point. But Peter and I and a couple other people were online pretty much 3 or 4 times a week playing the Friday the 13th video game, and had been for a while. We started in like 2016, and I think we played that game for almost 3-4 years straight. And we just and it got down to the point where Jason was less a threat than I was, because I would just run around shooting people with a shotgun and running them over with a car. And also, don't let Peter kid you, he was the worst driver in that game. There wasn't a fence post, side of a barn, a tree that he couldn't hit on his way out of the. Jason would just kind of look at him and go, well, I feel bad even killing him. This is embarrassing. It was just, he was a terrible, terrible driver. Anyway, Adam, of course, had been working with Peter on the doc. The other director left, and he basically went to Peter and said, we need a director for this thing. And there were a list of names, and apparently Peter suggested me first, or said I was the first person that he should talk to. And then Peter, I think it was one of the nights while we were talking or playing the game, he said, hey, Michael, we're looking for a director of Hearts of Darkness. Do you want to meet with Adam Marcus and the producer, Ali Rivera Quinones, and also Deborah as well, and just talk with them about possibly doing this? And I have to be honest with you, my initial I had some reluctance, because I always start my own stuff like from the ground up and see it all the way through the end. So coming in midway through, actually more than midway through, on a project that had already been, hours and hours and hours of footage had just been shot. And that was just Adam's interview. The rest of the interviews went on, were, of a reasonable length. Adam's interview, I swear, it's 5.5 hours long. It just keeps, it just kept going and going. If you fast forward through it, you can see in the reflection the sun going up, down, up, down. It was really something else to watch. Anyway, so I was reluctant to kind of step into something that was already, through my way of thinking, initially kind of already done, However, and also there was the matter of, well, is it just the making of a Friday the 13th movie? Because there had already been His Name Was Jason and Crystal Lake Memories.
Right.
And a special edition of Jason Goes to Hell that Adam had been involved with. So from my perspective, it was like, okay, well, if it's just about the making of a Friday the 13th movie, I don't know if I'm, as a director, that interested in coming into this. But Peter provided me some of the raw interviews to watch. Adam's interview, Stephen Williams, I think, Kane Hodder's, a few of the others as well. Yeah. And said, look through it. And before we have the phone call with, or the Zoom call with Adam and the gang. And I went, okay. And I went through it all. And watching Adam's, I wasn't able to watch all of it before the Zoom call. I only had like 2 or 3 days, and there just wasn't enough time to get through all of the interviews. Or at least Adam's interview anyway. And one thing I noted right off the bat, it's like, Adam is such an engaging speaker and such a great engaging storyteller. And he's talking about his childhood and growing up and the types, his family and working with his brother and all this stuff. And I realized very early on as I was going through, is that, okay, that's the story here. The Friday the 13th movie is a great way to get into the story of Adam's life and career. But it's not really going to be about, strictly speaking, it's not just about the making of a Friday the 13th movie. That's the vessel in which we use to go through this other story, which is about a first-time filmmaker getting his chance to not only make his first movie, but to make it in a sandbox that he loves. But with that comes expectations, with that comes creative differences, with that comes budgetary problems, with all the problems that come. Oh yeah, Sean Cunningham. And the fraying of relationships, the forging of new ones, and it was also inspiring to me that so many of the other interviews that I watched were with people who were not necessarily at the beginning looking to do a Friday the 13th movie at that point in their careers. Some who were relatively new in the business, some who were industry veterans by that point. But they all seemed to have a commonality in that they all went, I don't know about this. They meet with Adam, and then they come away going, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Absolutely. And I thought that was really interesting. And then there's also the aspect of Jason Goes to Hell initially did well financially, and it did as well critically as any Friday the 13th movie is allowed to do in the marketplace.
They hate him. So.
Yeah, and it's pretty much just it's like a form they fill out. They just fill in the name of the movie, and then they change a couple of the acting credits, and then they just submit it. It's
Kenneth Turan in the Los Angeles Times said it kept saying about Freddie. It was about Freddie.
Yeah, it's like, no. It's
not. Nope.
So
okay.
So to try to wrap this up, I thought, okay, it's worth having a phone call with Adam. And I had a little bit of second, because I had a producer on it, but I had done the extras for the Texas Chainsaw 3D Blu-ray for Lionsgate, and Deborah and Adam had done interviews for that, but I hadn't really had a direct line of communication to them.
Right.
So I was, but and it was one of those things where it was like, I thought I knew Adam already. It's like, no, how have I not met Adam at this point? It's just kind of weird. So from my perspective, it was worth just having a conversation just to get to talk to him. And prior to talking with Adam, I had seen, because I produced the Blu-ray of the Monster Squad many years ago. It was a big hit for Lionsgate.
Wolfman's Got Nards, yeah.
Well, yeah, and that I had done a full-length documentary on the Monster Squad. It was a big project for me. And then some years later, Andre Gower and a couple other people got together and did a documentary called Wolfman's Got Nards, which looks at the making of the movie, but is really about the film's reception over the years, the fact that it failed initially, found this cult following, and the impact it had on the lives of the people who made it, which was both very negative at times and also positive, but kind of had a weird kind of a circular path for being positive for some people. And it was one of those documentaries when I heard they were doing it, I don't need to do another documentary for Monster Squad. I already did one. And then I saw it and I went, oh, well, yeah, okay, this is really good. But I was reminded of that movie when I was watching the footage of Adam and everybody for the doc. It's like, there's something similar of it's not the exact same story, but there's a similar vibe in terms of it's not about the movie. It's really about the creative passion that went into it.
And by the way, as this is happening simultaneously, I had given Allie and Deborah copies of Wolfman Got Nards because I had seen it in Dublin. It was back to back with Secret Santa many years ago. We were both in the same screening, and I fell in love with it at that screening. And I had seen it like 3 or 4 times since then. So I showed it to the both of them, and I said, "Look, our first director he just didn't have a vision of what the movie was. Like he was collecting footage, but to what end? And so he just never really nailed what is the story of the movie. And I was like, I don't want to make a BTS. That's not what we're going to do here. This isn't an extra on a Blu-ray. This is a documentary. This is a feature-length documentary. So I showed it to Allie and to Deb and said, look, guys, in the best of all worlds, this is the movie I'd want us to make. Like, this is a great documentary about filmmaking. Again, much to what Michael is saying, because it's about people. It's not about the movie. That's a vessel for people to have relationships. And so I had said all of this prior to this meeting. We're not 5 minutes into the meeting, into Michael, meeting Michael, and he says, "Hey, have you seen Wolfman Got Nards? Because I think it should be that kind of movie." And I'm telling you, this is not a joke. Myself and Allie, in particular, we were at the end of our rope. We had been at it for 3 years. We were exhausted. We were getting beat up because of COVID and because people were like, "Where's my Blu-ray?" And I'm like, we can't get in anybody's house. Leave us alone. We can't do anything, guys. And so, but I was mostly exhausted because we didn't have a direction for the film. The minute Michael said Wolfman Got Nards, I think it should be like that. Both Allie and I, during this Zoom call, both of us start getting tears welling up in our eyes. We're both like, we've seen it. It was like this unbelievable experience. And I'm telling you, not 10 minutes later, I was like, Michael, you're the guy. Like that's, and I told Peter, he had 5 other filmmakers that wanted to meet with me. I was like, I don't need to meet with anybody else. This is the guy. This is the guy.
I remember on the phone call seeing you guys get emotional. I remember thinking to myself, God, what a bunch of pussies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Both things can be true, by the way. Both things can be true.
Am I going to have to work with the? Okay, all right. Well, yeah. No, it was a. I don't remember how long the Zoom call was. It was a while.
Yeah, it was.
Because we got off on other tangents as we normally do. But I got off the Zoom call, and it was, for me, it was just like, look, it's worth it for nothing else than to get to work with Adam on this. And it was and I ultimately decided, yeah, okay, I wasn't there for the shooting of the interviews, and that's something I would have liked to have been there for. And there was a certain amount of direction that was kind of set just based on what the interview questions were and stuff like that. But I thought, oh, well, it might be interesting to step into something like this where you're not there and try and see, okay, now you're going to just go out. You have no preconceptions. I didn't go into this thinking, okay, this is the type of documentary we're making. I'm just listening to the footage. I'm just, it's telling me what the documentary is going to be. And that was kind of interesting. And when I realized what the heart of the thing was, and that covering Jason Goes to Hell was kind of like a loss leader to get you in the store. That's just like, oh, I want to watch it. Yeah, Friday the 13th fans are going to watch this, but I can't tell you how many people have watched this movie who came away going, that was not what I was expecting it to be. Mm-hmm. That was much more emotional than I thought it was going to be. That was much funnier than I thought it was going to be. That was much more, I won't say educational, but it was much more about a filmmaking journey than it was just about, minutia around Jason Voorhees, although that's certainly in there.
Oh, yeah.
But that was something in working with the editor, Eric Beatner, who's a multiple Emmy Award nominee for The Amazing Race, and he's a fantastic editor, a lifelong friend of Eric's or of Adam's, and it's just a great editor. And he had the hard part because I would sit here and go for this, try this, add more of this, do less of that, add more of this, buy, and then he would have to sort through the 75, 80 hours of footage. And then along the way, they had shot one of the Q&As at the American Cinematheque, I think, already.
Yeah. And that one we had done already,
yeah, and it was good, and I liked it, but I wanted more of it, and I wanted. It's like, well, can we have another screening?
And by the way, that's how that failed convention with
that
Kane
was the plan,
happened.
right?
That was the whole thing. I said yes to that because they were allowing me to bring my team in, to bring Michael and our group in to shoot that event. Mm-hmm. So that Michael would have a framing device for the entire movie. It was really, I mean, Michael was really trying to build something that that was not only just a framework, but would also show sort of the interaction now with the fandom.
Yeah, that's a big part of this because the fan reaction on this movie has been a roller coaster ride, to say the least.
Yeah, it's evolved like crazy over the years.
And it's evolved and it's de-evolved.
De-evolved and then evolved.
Then re-evolved. You know, it's just been... And it's one of those things where you can go back and you look, the reaction to the movie when it first came out was, in the fan community, I think it would be fair to say was mixed.
Yes.
Because a lot of people didn't know. It was like, what the fuck is this? You know, if you were reading Fangoria magazine, you knew a little bit in advance of some of the things that were going to happen in the movie. But there were gags and lines of dialogue and things that happened in that picture you were not prepared for. So, but you couldn't just go on the internet and register, you know, not everybody had a fucking megaphone. So the perception was a lot, you know, it was like, some people liked it, some people didn't. You know, and that was kind of how it was. But then once the internet comes along, suddenly the people who hated it the most were the loudest.
Yeah.
And it created a narrative that everybody hated the movie.
Well, so that's the main reason I'm so excited about this movie. And we are at a disadvantage because none of us has watched it yet. But when Crystal Lake Memories came out, and I'm a little bit tight with Daniel Ferrens. I love him. We've worked together on some stuff. He worked with Shabba-Doo, who I helped do a biography. He's a mensch too, but I was so disappointed on the lack of representation of Jason Goes to Hell in the Crystal Lake Memories film. And there are many reasons for that. And we just talked about one of them, which was the evolving roller coaster of fan reaction.
And by the way, and Daniel, I like Daniel. Daniel's a good dude. I will tell you, there is not one frame in Crystal Lake Memories that is footage that was shot for Crystal Lake Memories. It's all recycled footage from His Name Was Jason and other interviews.
Yeah, that's right.
They never called
DVD,
me and
all
said,
that
and by the way,
footage is
Daniel
on there.
knows me. But I'm sorry, Slinky, what'd you say?
On the Jason X DVD, every clip from that DVD is footage used in Crystal Lake Memories. It's very, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. So
and everything's and everything's and then everything in Crystal Lake Memories is from His Name Was Jason.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like
So for Jason Goes to Hell to get its own moment in the sun is so exciting for those of us who were sorely disappointed at the lack of representation in Crystal Lake Memories.
Well, it also kind of went, I think one of the reasons that happened was because the film's reputation had taken such a shellacking that I think maybe, and I don't want to speak for Dan Ferrens or anybody else, and Dan's a friend as well, but it seemed like they kind of blew through it because they didn't think anybody cared or didn't want to hear about it. And it was considered like, well, that's that movie that no one likes.
They were also working with Sean Cunningham, who didn't want it represented.
Right. And you know, and Sean has had his own interpretation of it. To put it nicely, his own interpretation. Yeah. his own particular take on how things went. And the most interesting thing, the most consistent thing about that is that no one backs him up. Not one person has come forward saying that's exactly how it went.
Yeah.
Everybody. There's a whole bunch of footage in the raw footage, and some of it was used in the Sean Cunningham extra that's on the doc on the disc, where everyone gets asked, so was Sean there doing this? Was Sean there doing this? Oh, or no, or I saw Sean once or twice, but no, he wasn't ever direct. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is just a bunch of bullshit, and he was fanning the flames of this movie was a disaster and I saved it. And I had to go through that recently on another film that I did a special edition for. There was a member of the production who was desperately and bitterly trying to rewrite history in terms of, you know, the production was a disaster and I saved it in the editing room. And what was hilarious about that was that I was interviewing the editor of the movie right after him. He comes in and sits down and I go, hey, so-and-so said that they saved the movie in the editing room and they were there. And he just looked at me and went, he was never in the editing room.
Oh my God.
What are you talking? So it's amazing how some people are because of their own issues and have sometimes nothing to do with the movie itself, but they try to reclaim some sort of creative ground or moral ground. It's weird, and that happened on Jason Goes to Hell. But then that also fed a lot of the disinformation out there about the movie.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask you next. Is this also, besides Jason Goes to Hell finally getting its own thing? Is this kind of a chance to set the record straight on a lot of the misinformation that's been floating around? Some of it based on Sean's comments, some of it based on fans just doing guesswork. And I'll see Adam on these forums sometimes. The fan groups come in and say, that may not be exactly like you think it is.
Right. Look, here's the thing. To Michael's credit, because we asked Sean 5 times to be interviewed. We kept going back to him, and I made sure it was on email, so there was always a paper trail. And he never responded. He just simply wouldn't respond. By the way, including to Peter Bracke personally. So Peter asked him 3 separate occasions we wanted his voice, right? And I don't care if he said, Adam's a prick and I can't stand that fucking guy and he has no talent. I would have been fine. I really would have been fine with it. It's fine. The problem was that he wouldn't show up. And we had all this footage from everybody else saying Sean wasn't there, including people like Harry Manfredini and our editor David Hanman and our cinematographer Bill Deal, who didn't have an axe to grind. 2 of those guys are friends with Sean. And they went, no, he wasn't. No, he let Adam make the movie. That was the point. And so we had all of that stuff, but where Michael came from on it was, look, the guy is not available to comment, so it would be unfair of us to make this movie about that. And I totally agree with him. Now, here's what's amazing. 2 of our associate producers on the movie, who were the 2 jackasses that actually snookered me into making the movie to begin with, TJ Bowser and Corey Kaufman, those 2 guys went to a convention about a year before we started production. And they got Sean and Kane on stage at the convention, and they asked questions from the convention floor of Sean. And Sean walked right into the wood chipper and basically said he reshot 60% of my movie.
Ooh.
Says it right there. He just says it. And it's the biggest lie of all the lies. That and, and Adam's the one who said, get the hockey mask out of the movie. Yeah, okay. So he says those words. So the extra, which is called Secrets and Lies on the disc, does explore, it shows that footage of him doing that, and then everybody going, Sean was never there. What is he talking about? Wasn't there.
That was one of the things in the editing that it's like how negative. It's not just about how negative we get. That wasn't really the issue. It was a matter of the story we were telling. Ultimately, there's a tone that you need to set. And if we get bogged down too much with, fuck Sean, basically,
right,
it's a turnoff. And it's also, it doesn't really illuminate the story that we were trying to tell at the end of the day. It really didn't.
It sounds like you've counterbalanced it with one of the things that I've loved about Adam's response to fan reactions, which is to show often pictures of him when he was young and on the set and doing things. Oh God,
we had so many of those. Are you kidding me? We had
I mean, his enthusiasm
had like 30 different
palpable.
pictures of Adam in various shots.
Yes.
And then we had footage of him on the set directing.
Yeah.
So it's this isn't one of those situations going, where's Adam? Right there. There's Adam. It's just, and everyone else was, again, there wasn't one person saying that who's Adam Marcus? That never came up. And it was always, and it wasn't hard to spot Adam on the set because, as covered in the documentary, he had a beard back then, but he shaved it before the film started, and it made him look like he was maybe 15 years old.
Right. He does look like a baby.
He looks like a high school student that wandered in off a tour group. And it's just
I remember
like,
I
what
had
the
the
fuck are you doing
Fangoria.
here?
Yeah, I had the Fangoria magazine when I was like 12 for this movie when it was coming out, and they had a picture of Adam Marcus standing in front of Jason with his arms crossed, and I always thought to myself, I was like, he's a fucking kid, and I was 12, so that's but it was cool because it showed him on set, man. And I was like, that's awesome. This is the young guys directing this badass horror movie. So
yeah, so there was also, I think, so, it's funny. I think there was also from some fans, who's this young kid thinking he has a right to go and do his kind of Jason movie, and he did. And look, I'll be honest with you, I went and saw it because I was a huge Friday the 13th guy. That was my franchise. I love Nightmare on Elm Street, but Jason for some reason was my guy. Even though the Nightmare films are infinitely more creative in many ways. They're better made in many ways. They got better script. I mean, they really have it all over Friday the 13th in terms of their overall quality. However, I don't know. There's just something about Jason Voorhees that I fucking love. And I love the continuity of the Paramount movies. I loved how one would sometimes pick up right after the other one, or it would pick up a year later, but Jason was right where he was supposed to be. You would have all the wounds from the previous movies in the mask and in the face and stuff. I love that shit. So after Jason Takes Manhattan, I was honestly very curious when this series shifted over to New Line. It's like, how the hell are they going to explain he's lying as a kid in a sewer in New York? How are they going to pick up after that? Well, the answer was they're not. They just pretended that shit never happened or just didn't acknowledge it. And so I was a little bit like, there's no continuity. They're not picking up in the street. This is bullshit. And then you watch the movie and you're like, since when could he body hop? When the fuck is this? And then also it's like, a little girl in a pink dress sticking a hot dog through a donut. I'm sorry, the fuck you say? And then like the shaving, he straps down the guy and starts shaving the dude. I'm like, what the fuck movie am I watching here? And so I get to the end of the picture and I walked out kind of like, I don't know what the fuck that was. I mean, points to creativity, but what, huh? And also people need to keep in mind the theatrical version, the one that I paid my $5 or $6 to go see, had hardly any gore in it. And the tent sequence might as well not even been in there for what little that was shown. Yeah. So it wasn't until I had let go of anything in my preconceptions and my desire for continuity and all that crap and rented the unrated tape, which was the first time they'd ever done an unrated Friday the 13th tape for any of the movies before that. Yep. And I'm watching it and it's like, oh yeah, that's a little bit better. And then the tent scene comes up. It's like, Jesus Christ, holy shit. And suddenly I had a much better time with the movie because I let go of all my crap and I just judged it by, and I've always said it's a campfire. Jason Voorhees is a campfire story now. It's a whole bunch of guys sitting around a campfire. It's like, well, I heard this story about Jason Voorhees. Oh yeah? Well, I heard Jason did this. And that's what this movie is. It's basically just a guy coming up with his own idea of what the legend of Jason Voorhees is and adding his own take on it. And you can either take it or leave it. But the fact that so many people take it so fucking personally is what kills me. It's just like, you took what I loved and you ruined it. Huh? It all goes back to that whole George Lucas raped my childhood shit. Right, right. It's like, you know what? George Lucas, you know what the worst thing George Lucas ever did to me? The worst thing he ever did to me. He made some movies I didn't like. Yeah, that's it. That's the worst thing that man has ever done to me. So yeah, and I think Adam Marcus did not destroy Friday the 13th. He did not ruin anyone's childhood. He made a movie you either responded to or you didn't, like any other filmmaker does with any other movie.
Absolutely. So Jason Goes to Hell is not my favorite Friday the 13th movie. But it's pretty high on my list, and I think Slinky and Aaron, it's pretty high on you guys' list too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, I've been a fan since it came out. That I remember going to the comic book shop when I was 12, buying the comic book because it was a glow in the dark cover, man. Like I was ready for this movie, and it was the first Friday the 13th. My mom dropped me off at the theater to see it. So I was like, this movie's a big fucking deal for me, and I just love the creativity behind it. I love the way Jason looks behind it. I love it. I just like it. It's a movie. It's a visual feast. There's so much going on. It's crazy, man. Finger breaking.
Yeah. Just I love it.
Fun time.
I love the fact that
it's not in the fucking camp.
I really love the fact that you guys did so much different stuff here. But there's one thing that I really love, especially as a 46-year-old woman, is I love the fact that the characters are adults. Yeah. Like I really enjoyed the fact that I related to the characters. I can't relate to horny teenagers just doing whatever and dancing with whoever they want to dance with, and then I'm sorry, I gotta go fuck this guy now. Like I can't relate to that as a 46-year-old woman in a monogamous relationship. So. But I really love Jason Goes to Hell because besides taking something and making it something very unique, it also has some fantastic performances. I mean, just Rusty Schwimmer and Leslie, and all of those performances in it are fantastic. Nobody is a there's not a what did you say?
Nobody's phoning it in.
Yeah, there's not a weak performance in there.
No, there's not a weak performance in the film.
Well, the guy who played the deputy, he wasn't very good.
Yeah, that one guy.
I didn't like
saying fuck, and he was weak.
Always one.
Boys.
Pretty weak.
He was probably a friend of Adams or something that he just snuck in there. I don't know.
Nepo baby. Yeah.
I love Kip so much.
Kip was great. It was the other guy. Ugh.
Oh, Adam.
Jesus Christ. By the way, my brother, if he ever watches this, is going to have an orgasm the minute you say that. So thanks for that, bro.
Oh, of course, because Kip, because of Snow Day and how much I love that movie and how near and dear to my heart that film is. And so, I
love that you still call it Snow Day too.
I know, because it's depending on where you're at on Tubi, it's called different.
Let it snow.
But when I was a kid,
it should be the original title was Snow Day.
Yeah, with Snow Day, and I absolutely adore Secret Santa. I love Deborah's performance. I love how you refer to her as a walking work of art, and she's so fascinating to watch. And I love the fact that it is this dysfunctional buffet. I love Kyle. I love that specifically because I have a special needs sister, and to watch this person perform with a stutter.
Yep.
And this is, them kind of using their they're overcoming their disability to be able to do this amazing performance. And it's fantastic. It's just so great. And Penny, I just wanted to punch the shit out of her. And that's the mark of a great performance, really. No, I love it. I love the gore. It's just awesome. I love the fact that the one character's in AA because I'm in AA, and so watching that, I was like, yeah, sober bitch, I really had such a great time watching it. And it's become part of our Christmas tradition now, as we watch it on Christmas time. So
Michael, by the way, had pulled a very funny bit with me regarding Secret Santa. Because he had not seen the movie. And he was like, I want to see it. I was like, okay, I'll send it to you. But he's like, listen, if I hate it, I'm never going to bring it up. I'm never going to talk to you about it. I was like, okay. He says, if I like it, I'll say something, but otherwise I'm just never going to bring it up.
Yeah, I'll pull one of these. Hey, did you get the movie? I did get it. Yes. Have you watched it yet? I haven't had time.
Right.
Oh, I hope to. Or if I'm cornered, it was like, no, seriously, did you watch it? I did, and it was a movie, something like that.
So weeks go by, and I get a text from Michael saying, hey, and we're deep into production at this point, and he says, hey, I really need to talk to you. 10 o'clock at night my time, so it's 1 a.m. his time. He's like, we need to talk. We need to talk. I was like, oh my God, what's up? So I called him and he's like, yeah, no, we need to be on Zoom for this. I can't. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, not another director. I can't. No, I love this guy. This is going to break my fucking heart. And so I rush back in, jump on Zoom with Michael, and this is what he does.
Yeah. And
son of a bitch.
I get on there and it's like, Adam, listen, I wanted to tell you this in person because it was important that, I didn't want to just email you about this or anything. And then I hold up the Secret Santa and said, I saw Secret. I loved it. It's fucking awesome. And he's like, you son of a bitch. And then what? Because I popped it in. He sent it to me. I didn't watch it for a couple weeks because I was just, and I finally was just like, well, I think, and I always dread when someone I'm working with or a friend of mine gives me something that they worked on. And it's like, I want to watch it and I want to support you, but I'm always afraid because I can't lie. I'm not very good at lying.
Right.
About it. It's just like, you watch it. I did. I sure did. What the hell is that over there? And then you just run and, and it's, I didn't want to do that. So I was like, but I can't avoid it. And also I did want to see it, so I watched it. And about halfway through it, I just remember thinking, unless he just totally shits the bed, this movie is a classic. And then it went, because I was already, that was the thing about Secret Santa I loved the most was even before all the crazy over-the-top violent shit happens, I was so invested in this horrible, horrible family.
Yes.
That I was just like, you know what? Honestly, if the horror stuff never happens, I'm fine with it, because this was reminding me of a movie like The Ref, where I was just so invested in just the backbiting and the horribleness of these fucking people. And it was so well written, and the acting was great. And it was just like, oh, I'm almost disappointed that the shit's going to hit the fan. So I was really happy when the shit did hit the fan. It was awfully entertaining. So I just called up Adam, and he was just like, God damn, you set me up. It's like, yeah. And not the first.
I left a party to come back to my house to take these tunes off.
But no, Secret Santa is an absolute stone cold holiday classic. It's just one of those. You put on the Yule log and make some hot chocolate and sit and watch the worst family in the fucking America just basically de-evolve in front of your eyes. And that's one of those movies where it's like, I'm so glad someone made this, because
I'm glad we got on to Secret Santa, because I wanted to tie everything back to this human element that you were talking about with Hearts of Darkness. We've got Adam Marcus very young, and then we've got Adam Marcus in 2018, 2017, 2018, years and years later, but the same sense of humor there, okay? And the same mensch, okay? He's touching on gay themes, okay, Kyle? I mean, the horror family that doesn't accept their son for who he is, and he comes right out and says, yes, I'm gay. It's my favorite scene in the film.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Do you know that in every country, because the movie did very well in the festival circuit, and in every country we played in, no matter what language we were experiencing, every single screening of that movie, no matter where it played, there was an applause break after that moment of the movie. Every audience applauded. Oh, cool. I honestly, I've barely seen applause breaks in any movie, and it was every time. I was like, this is crazy.
So cool.
I didn't expect to get emotional during this show. Yes, that is amazing.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, that makes me feel so good. And I want to tie back to Jason Goes to Hell, because there's also some gay themes in that, where we have the mega fans that are complaining about the shaving scene, and you've talked about wanting to make people uncomfortable with that.
Yep. No, because look, the cult around Friday the 13th has always been this bro dude tit loving cult,
dear.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's what they are. I mean, that's who they are, right?
Hey, Deborah Voorhees is still my favorite girl in the movie series.
Right. And again, and listen, by the way, God bless that. I don't have any problem with that. I really don't. I love it. I was raised on those movies, and I love boobies. So yay, yay boobies. But I remember thinking, I remember so many of my female friends would talk about Kevin Bacon in the first movie. And why hasn't there been another ass scene like that? And by the way, when you watch the first movie again, Sean lingers on Kevin Bacon's ass. And it's a great ass, don't get me wrong. But I mean, it's a lot of Bacon's bacon is out there for a long time, And I find that, I also find it extraordinary the number of people who would get excited by those movies because of same-sex feelings, right? So Deborah Voorhees is a perfect example, who, by the way, is a good friend of mine for a long time, and she's a doll, and she's also someone who has never apologized for those scenes. She's never apologized for being that girl for the franchise. She really isn't. She's kind of awesome in that way.
She has nothing to feel sorry for.
Right, seriously.
I mean, there's a whole music video dedicated
to so good.
I've seen it.
The sexual awakening of an entire group of young men that were watching that. Wolfie's just fine.
Yeah, Wolfie's just fine. Yes. Oh, it's so good.
Real quick, while we're talking about Deb, I mean, I know you were a consultant on 13 Fanboy.
I was.
How was your involvement with that? What does a consultant do for a movie like that?
Well, here's really what it was. So I never read the original script. That was not something that was made available to me. My wife, Deborah, is in the movie, and several of my actors.
Fantastic job too, the detective. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. No. I'm very proud of her work in that movie. But several of my actors went up to help Deborah. Deborah wrote me and was like, "Hey, I need some people." And your people are pros. She had come in and sat in my classes. She was like, "Your people are incredible. Can you put some people on tape for me?" So I put a whole bunch of my people on tape. She hired a whole bunch of my people, and they all wrote up together.
Were they skeleton crew members?
All skeleton crew.
Yes, fantastic.
All skeleton crew. Yeah. And in fact, the guy who plays Albert Pellegrino, who's the next door neighbor in Secret Santa. He's also in 13 Fanboy alongside Deborah. The two deputies that are with Deborah are two of my guys.
Yep.
So I helped in that. That was the first thing I helped with. Then she needed to shoot in L.A., so I got her a bunch of locations that she needed in L.A., so she was set there. But really, when I started consulting was when she sent me the first cut of the movie. And it had problems.
Sure.
And
First-time director, yeah.
Absolutely. And so I went through it. Really, I mean, boy, did I give notes. And by the way, I always warn people. I'm like, look, if you want my notes on a script or a movie or on a film that you are in progress on, I will give you that. By the way, I never ever tell somebody what's wrong with their movie once the movie's done. I never do it because you can't fix it. We're done. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to just show you how smart I am. Then I'm an asshole. But if someone comes to me and wants it, I go, listen, if you want my notes, you're going to get my notes. And I'm not going to play nice with you. I'm going to tell you what's wrong. I will always offer a solution. It might not be the best idea, but it'll be a good version. It'll be a bad version of the right idea, right? So, but I'm going to give you my thoughts. Deborah sat on a phone call with me for 4 hours.
Ooh.
And she never blinked. She never got upset. There was none of that shit. And she took almost every note that I gave her, which was extraordinary. Like, I didn't expect that at all. So look, Deborah's an actual filmmaker in that she wants notes. Anyone who wants notes and wants to make the movie better, that's a filmmaker. You can argue whether the quality of the movie is this, that, or the other. Doesn't matter. For me, filmmakers, real writers are people who take notes. If you're not willing to take notes, you should not be doing this job. You just shouldn't, because nothing is going to be perfect. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, no, Adam's very good at giving notes. Very,
for
very good.
fuck's sake.
Well, and it turned out so good. It was so good.
Tell him that story. Tell him that story. Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Smarty.
Okay, so we're near the completion of this whole thing, and there had been a trailer that had been cut. We needed a trailer, obviously. We wanted to do like an R-rated trailer to promote the documentary. And there had been a rough cut of a trailer already done that had been sitting around for, I think, 3 years at that point.
Yeah.
And Eric wasn't going to have time to really go back and revisit it at this point because he was back on the next season of Amazing Race at that point. And so I said, well, I'll do it. I'll take it. And so they sent over what they had on the trailer, and I was able to reconstruct what had already been done. And it was a little long, and we needed to trim a few things down. But overall, it was, a lot of it was really good. So I worked on it and did a couple days on it. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do this. Okay, this is good. I'll add this and this and this. And I got it to a point where I was really happy with it. I thought, no, this is good. This really works. I think this is pretty good. So I sent it over to Adam for him to look at and, sign off on. And I'm on the, I think I sent it to him like let's say it was a Tuesday night. That Wednesday was like a really crappy day. I had like 4 things go horribly wrong. I had a bunch of other projects. I was just like, ugh. So Adam finally gets back with me later that night, and I'm in a really just in a bad mood anyway. So I just like, okay. And Adam says, and I'm expecting Adam to call me up and go, well, trailer's great. Let's go. Let's run with it. Adam calls me up and says, hey, Mike, no, the trailer's good. I like it. I like it. It's good. It's good. However, can you do this? Can we add this? I think we need a little less of this and maybe some more of this. Can we bring these titles in? I like the idea of having the titles from the, establish that early in and the whole time I'm like, So he asked me, can we do this? And I'm like, nope, can't do it. Nope, can't do that. I was like, what about this? No, can't. That's impossible. It's impossible to do that, Adam. No. So I just shoot down everything he suggested. And it's not like he had 18 things. He had like 4 or 5 things.
I didn't.
And I'm just like, no, can't be doing it. And Adam was taking it really well. He was just like, oh, okay, well, if that's the way it goes, that's fine. And I get off the phone with it. I'm like, I can't believe this. I just went to fucking trailer. And God damn, he's giving me notes on this. Well, actually, that first thing, probably could do that, because actually that would make a lot of sense. But I don't have to do the second thing. I mean, that second thing, although now that we've done the first thing, actually the second thing makes a lot, oh, son of a bitch. And so I get back in there and I spent all night. I worked till like 5 or 6 in the morning implementing all these changes. And the whole time I'm just like, yep, that makes it better, motherfucker. And it's just like, God damn it. And the trailer ended up being much better. And it was just, and the whole time I'm just like, he just had to give me good notes, didn't he? Oh, son of a bitch. Finally, I get the whole thing and I send it over to him. And he's just like, oh, you managed to make, oh, you did do some of that stuff. Yeah, I did. Yeah, because you gave good notes and you suck. But it was just like, so, yeah. So, but I that's the thing. No one likes getting notes necessarily.
Right.
But if they're good notes and notes you can understand, I'll do that. Yeah. I'll do that any day of the week. I may be a pissy bitch while I'm doing it, but if it's in the best service, if it's in the service of the project and making it better, I don't have any issues with that. I just recently did a featurette that's about Ralph Bates, the Hammer. The actor was in a lot of Hammer movies, and I got the whole cut. It was like an hour-long piece. I got it to like really where I thought it was great. And I got literally back 5 pages of single space notes on the whole thing. Wow. And they were all very small adjustments. And I'm just like, oh, but then I start getting into them. It's like, again, this makes it better. I don't like that. It's quite, and so it's again, but I do remember just being so pissed when I realized these are good notes. Why do they have to be good notes? Why can't I just get shitty notes that I could just automatically go, that's stupid. No, not doing that. Like the one I got, or the one I heard, I won't tell the whole story, but a composer was telling me once about a note that he got on a score from a producer that was basically, you're giving me a Wednesday, but I really feel like I need a Thursday.
By the way, that is the most studio note I've ever heard. That is. I mean, that studio note.
Yeah.
And they literally threw the producer out of the scoring session. They were like, "Get the fuck out of here! What does that even mean?" And I actually got a note once on an interview I shot, and the director in question had a hat on in the interview, and he wanted the hat on. It's like, okay, he's gonna have the hat on. And it didn't have like a logo on it or anything. It was just like a bowl or something. I forget what it was. And I got the note back from, and they were talking. It's like, I'm feeling like the whole interview is about the hat. I feel like the whole interview is just about the hat. Can we do something about the hat? No, no, we can't unless you have George Lucas money, and we can CGI the fucking hat out. What do you want me to do about the hat? I don't know I don't know. What do I do? Those are the kind of notes that drive me nuts. So what do I do with this?
Right.
What do I do with this? And there used to be a time where I was desperately trying to find a way to make it work. Nowadays, when I get shitty notes, which is rare, very, very rare, but when I get shitty, stupid notes like that, I'm just like, no, I'm just not going to do it. I don't care. But unfortunately for me, Adam just has good notes. So that's.
Well, and so to Adam's point, though, right, a good director knows when to use good notes. So to that point, I want to talk about both you guys' directorial styles. So I always think of Ed Wood when Eddie goes, "You're not that upset" to Tor Johnson, right? Like,
no, not that upset.
Right. I mean, how do you work with either your actors or the people who you're supposed to be interviewing in a documentary? Like, what's your general style? Do you trust them a lot? Do you micromanage? Like, how do you handle them?
Adam, you go first on that.
Sure. Okay. So for those who don't know, Skeleton Crew includes a TheaterWorks troupe of actors, and it's 60 people that I work with every week. And working with actors for me is my lifeblood. That's the thing that actually keeps me grounded. It keeps me sharp. Working with that for my money, I don't like this. I don't like the Michael Bay school of directing, where everything became about visuals and people just forgot about performers. And I remember I was interviewing Jessica Alba for a movie she wanted to do with me, and she said to me, we were having a lovely conversation. She said, "Look, I am so tired of being a prop. Every movie I make, it's like I'm standing on a green screen looking at tennis balls and pretending that something's there. I'm tired of it." And I got to tell you, I really feel for her and everybody around her age, because it's before what we have now as far as visual effects, which are very different than what we had 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you were looking at a fucking tennis ball. That was what acting was. And that is very difficult. Look, actors have incredible senses of imagination, some even more extraordinary than others. But there comes a point when you're like, Jessica Alba became a star because of Idle Hands. When you go back and watch Idle Hands, you're like, this girl gives an incredible performance. And then suddenly she does all this stuff that's all effects driven, and her work gets less and less impressive. Well, at some point you got to go, wait a second. Maybe it's because she's not working with human beings, right? So for me, I hate that kind of filmmaking. I hate this idea of like using actors as dolls rather than using actors for the soul of who they are. Because for me, when you direct, the paint that you paint with are the actors. That is the color that you have to your story. That's it. You have a cinematographer to light your movie, so stop fucking worrying about the lighting of your movie. Like, cut it out. And you can always fix it in color timing anyway, so fuck off with all of it. For me, when I went to NYU, I had 5 classes on lenses. I had 1 class about directing the act. 1. So and I was raised as an actor. That was my whole life growing up and in the theater in particular. So when I work with actors, look, Jason Goes to Hell is the only Friday the 13th movie to have 2 weeks of rehearsals before we ever shot a frame of film.
So cool.
Well, and by the way, we couldn't pay the actors for that. Like, Sean was never going to give them money to rehearse. But I said, hey guys, look, I'm available. If you want to rehearse, I will give you my time to do that because I want to do that. And no one said no. They all showed up. And I ended up with this like incredible sort of like acting camp before we started the movie where everybody got to play and improv and support each other. And it became this kind of family before we ever shot a frame of footage. When you watch the movie, you see that evident in the acting in the movie. It's all there, every bit of it. And by the way, it's why a 23-year-old kid on a 37-day schedule with less than $2 million to make the movie could pull off that film. That's the only way that can happen. Because I had to do a stunt and a makeup effect on every single day of that show. How are you going to get good performances on top of it? Well, because you've pre-planned all the performances. To specifically to your point, I never, ever, unless there's a stunt involved, I never block a scene before the actors run the scene once. Like, I will get on location and I go, great, do the scene. Well, do you want to block? No. I want to see what you're going to do with it. What is your instinct tell you? And here's the deal. 9 times out of 10, their instincts are better than anything else I'm going to come up. So I can then say, great, all I need to make sure that you hit this mark in that moment. That's all I'm going to need from you so the camera can see you in that spot. And like you do a little tailoring, but you let the actor feel like you're giving them breath. And look, the Sam Raimi school of filmmaking from way back when in particular, he got much better at it after he worked with Paul Newman on Hudsucker Proxy when he was doing Second Unit. Prior to that, the reason why Gene Hackman hated Sam, and I mean he hated Sam, like hate, is because Sam wouldn't let him finish a fucking sentence. Because it was all about the camera move, the camera angle, the camera thing, the cut, the thing. Well, then you're not letting the actor act. So I never start anything without a master shot of just, and by the way, I might not even use the fucking master, but I shoot the shot so that I go, great, they've gotten a run of the scene. They know the whole shape of that scene in that one take. Now let's move on to the filmmaking part of this. So I'm all about giving actors in particular as much room as they can possibly have. And I also speak the language of actors, which a lot of directors don't. Look, whenever I'm teaching classes and stuff to film schools, I always talk to directors in particular and say, guys, listen. And by the way, this works for writers and producers as well. But I say to every director, folks, get in an acting class. I don't care if you're a good actor. You don't have to be a good actor. That's not the point. But you have to understand they have a language unto themselves. And if you don't speak that language, you will never get from them the quality of what you could get from them. To that end, look, Michael is a wonderful actor. That's, again, it's one of the things we have as a kinship is you have to understand that in order to be able to direct that.
All right. Well, before we go to Michael's directorial style, I wanted to hone back in on what you were talking about with Jessica Alba about being a prop versus being an actor, and talk about Kane real quick, because I loved his performance in 13 Fanboy, where he got to be a human being,
Which is the only reason he took that movie. Yes. That was the reason he took it.
And he got to do that with you in Jason Goes to Hell. He played himself. Well, he didn't play himself, but he played a guard in that. So what was the contrast between allowing him to be the prop Jason, which he's more than a prop, right? But also being a human being in that scene, and his comedic timing was fantastic.
Look, I don't know how anybody else treated Kane prior to me coming on board this movie. I don't know how the other and we really never talked about like how the other directors handled him before me. And I know Jimmy Isaacs is a sweetheart, so I know that I'm sure his time with Kane was wonderful. What I can tell you is this: because Kane was also the stunt coordinator for the film, my work with Kane when he was in or out of the makeup was the same. Because again, he knows that character better than any director is ever going to fucking know that character. Nobody knows that character like him. Okay, maybe Ari Lehman, but that would be the only brother. So with Kane, I truly gave him the ground for him to do what he wanted to do, and then I would put the camera where it needed to be to capture it. So even with any of the Jason stuff, yes, there were marks to hit, there were moments to have and scares and whatnot. But for the most part, no. You show me what you want to do, Kane, and let me see how I can make it work. Kane is an actor, and look, it's why the casting choices made for Freddy versus Jason are so incredibly disrespectful and knuckleheaded, in my opinion.
Yep.
Well, it's knuckleheaded.
Oh God. That's a whole other podcast.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't, but again, I'm just talking from an actor standpoint. Forget about the rest of it. The idea that Kane was less Jason than Robert was Freddy is disrespectful, not just to the actor, but to the audience. Yep. People love Kane. They love him and they love his work. He gave Jason, prior to Kane, Jason didn't have a real personality. It was just, must kill, Suddenly Kane comes in and literally and figuratively breathes life into the character. He just did. He did.
It was Kane on the Arsenio Hall show, wasn't it?
It sure was.
That was. And he
God
stayed
bless
in
him.
character that whole way through. I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
No, he's amazing. And look, by the way, he's also just, he is a beautiful person. He loves the sort of image of the that he puts out there, the kill in the inside of his lip and all that. But he's a pussycat. He really is a pussycat. He's a sweetheart. He is.
We cried together. I went to go get I was getting something signed and it was his book because I have it over there. And we talked about being bullied, and he was telling me like how he was bullied when he was a kid for being smaller. And I said, and I was bullied for being bigger. And we just kind of, we just cried together. Well, I love Kane. I absolutely adore Kane.
He's that guy.
And he's one of those people that I ran into him in a convention many, many years later, and he knew exactly who I was. He was like, oh, he goes, Aaron, oh, absolutely. He's like, oh, we talked about this and we talked about this. And it was just amazing. He's amazing. So, yeah. No,
he is amazing. He is amazing.
So, Michael, your directorial style, I mean, when you're working on these documentaries and, the commentaries and all the things, I mean, how do you differ or
well, I mean, I could wax poetic on how I think a director should act on set and what I've learned from other directors who've talked about their failures and their successes with actors. But I think Adam certainly is very much in line with the theory I have, which is trust your actors to give you the performances you hired them for. And if nothing else, it's modulation, a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that, over here, a little bit quicker adjustments. If you get the right actors, it seems to me that if you get the right actors, it takes an enormous amount of weight off your shoulders as a director, because you don't need to worry about, gee, I wonder if this guy is going to give the performance. Of course he is. So there you go. You're good. You're set. And when you get someone like Stephen Williams or a Rusty Swimmer in there or a Leslie Jordan, you don't have to worry about whether they're going to bring the magic. And in fact, it seems that the directors who I've interviewed in the past who were really in tune with actors were the ones who were looking forward to seeing something that they weren't expecting, especially writer-directors who have their scripts like, I like what I've written, but I'm looking to see it. I want to see it transformed by other people. I want to see it elevated by other people. And that's always interesting to me. But in terms of what I do, when I a lot of my interviews are conducted by other people because I'm in Detroit and I have a lot of work in LA and New York, but I do like to go out and interview when I can. And I do a lot of stuff in the Midwest. I'll travel. And I was just up in New York, upstate New York, doing a couple of interviews up that way. And I got to do an interview. I wish I could talk about who it is, but I can't just yet. But I got to do an interview with an actress who has not really gone on record a lot in the past. And I had some brief conversations with her and before, and things didn't work out. But I was able to talk to her, and I was going to go up and film the interview myself because she and I had developed kind of a rapport. But then I thought maybe it would be easier if I'm on camera with her. So that way it's less of a, like she's staring into a light and there's a little less artifice. It's more of a casual conversation, and it worked out really, really well. So you just kind of, but then there was things where I knew there were some subjects about her life that she might have been reluctant to talk about.
Right.
So you figure out a way to ask the question and get what you need to get, and then either back off or explore if you feel that it's not a scientific process. Sometimes you can sense that I think they're willing to talk about this, but we need to go about it the right way. And other times, door gets shut. That's it. And when that happens, you go, okay, moving on. And in a way, she was able to address the issue without addressing it. And, so it's like, okay, because at the end of the day, it's really none of our business, but it helps to fill in the gap in the story that we're trying to tell. And you want to be respectful, and you want to also, you don't want to force someone. I've learned when you interview people, you don't want to force people into areas that they're not comfortable with, because they're not going to feel good on camera talking about it. They're going to project an awkwardness and a reluctance. They're not going to come off looking good. And as a producer and director, I'm not going to come off looking good. So no one benefits. So you need to, but at the same time, you don't want to just walk away from something if you think sometimes I've done interviews with people where I could tell they wanted to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But they weren't sure how to maybe phrase it or something. So you call cut for a second and say, let's talk about how we approach this so that you're comfortable with it, and then it opens up an avenue. There's just it's an interesting process, and it's you learn certain approaches, but it's different for every person you talk to. And then there's some people, all you do is say, all right, ask a first question, and then they rattle off for 30 minutes and they cover everything before you ever open. Like Bruce Campbell's like that, So Bruce, start talking. 15 minutes later, turn the camera off. Mm-hmm. You got everything you needed. You're done. Yeah. But then other people, it takes a little bit more prodding. But I always think about one of my greatest failures as an interviewer was early on. I was doing a documentary about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre called Flesh Wounds. It was going to be like separate stories from people who had not gone on camera talking about the movie much, or offering a different perspective on it. And I contacted a person who had worked on the behind the scenes, was in the editing department, and was on the set and had never really spoken about the movie before. But she was there every single day. She had tons of stories. And I'm setting up the camera, and we're chatting, and she's telling me this, and oh my god, wow. The minute the camera went on her and the light came on, deer in headlights.
Oh no!
Oh, no.
It's like, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know, and I'm asking her stuff that she just talked about. And I tried to turn off the camera and coax it back, and I was never able to get. But if I had been more experienced back then, I think I might have been able to find a way to do it. But it was one of those situations where just having the camera there was enough to make it not happen. And then she died like 2 years later.
Oh, no.
Oh.
It was just like, the great tragedy is not that I didn't get to do an interview, but it was just like, documenting the creative processes of these people making these movies is so important to me, because sometimes they're making movies using methods that we don't use now
anymore. Yeah.
Or we should still use, but we don't, because we've tossed it over for a more convenient form of filmmaking, a more digital experience, which I'm not necessarily knocking, by the way. But like something that Adam was talking about in terms of the prop, the being a prop and stuff, if you want the best illustration of that and what it can do to an actor, go look online on YouTube. There's a clip of Ian McKellen on the set of one of the Hobbit movies, where he's literally sitting in a green room pretending to have conversation with like 4 people, and he breaks down almost crying, because he just can't. There's not enough there's not enough input for him to get. And this is a guy who's been used to working with fucking people.
Yep.
And you just literally see him going, I can't. And you just see him break down. He has nothing to work with. And so that's always, I think we're starting to get away from that finally.
Yes.
I think people are starting to realize this is not conducive to improvisation. It's not conducive to it's not conducive to happy accidents.
Right.
And it just, I get, the argument is a gifted actor should be able to act no matter what the hell. It's a job, act. It's like, okay, but do you have to shackle them while you're doing this?
It's the idea of having a palm full of sand that you just hold this way and you keep the palm full of sand. The minute you do this, the sand goes right through your fingers. You can't keep it.
Yeah, and it's very disheartening to see a lot of these, especially it was like 15, 20 years ago, where everyone was we'll just shoot in a green screen box. And I'm not criticizing people like Robert Rodriguez or anything for their techniques and some of the things that they did. Like Sin City, I thought was really well done. But the problem is that doesn't work for everything. And it doesn't, you need something more than that, just walking into there's one clip I remember on, I think it's Attack of the Clones, where it's a scene where Natalie Portman's having to run through machinery. It's like this almost this cartoon sequence where these like the chompers from Galaxy Quest, and she's having to run through this thing, and you're seeing it being shot on green screen stage. It's all green, and at one point she just stops and goes, George, this is a joke, right? This isn't even in the movie, is it? Because and you could tell when you watch the film, it's like they couldn't accept the reality of what they were doing either. They weren't able to suspend their own disbelief to actually give the. That's why I think, and this is just when you watch the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, some of the best actors in the world are in that movie, and they give their all-time career worst performances in that film, in those films. And it's like, because I don't think they had enough. I don't think they had enough to really energize them and kick it up to the next level. They can be professional and give the jobs that they need to give, but if that's it, that's not enough. You know, I don't. It's fun to pretend to have a laser sword and do space battles, but I'd rather be around a dinner table in a holiday movie having an argument with a family member or something like that. That's more interesting to me as an actor, I would think. Just because you get caught up in the reality of what you're doing and you forget to give a performance. You just give, you're not worried about, am I saying this line right? You're just giving the performance and you're reacting to what is being thrown upon you. And that you get robbed of that when you do the green screen stuff. Not that I've had a lot of experience with that. But, I was a zombie in a couple of George's films, George Romero's films. And, the one I did on Land of the Dead, I'm there with 20 other zombies. We're charging this guy. They're firing off M16s above our heads. I didn't need to act. I mean, it was just like, it's all here. It's right here.
Capital realism. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, I there's a lot, this could be a whole separate series of podcasts talking about this subject, but in terms of what I do, it's really you go in prepared. That's the main thing whenever I do an interview. Know your shit. I don't like doing this. This is my least favorite thing in the world to do, is to go into an interview like this. Oh boy. So tell me about when you first got the script to the movie. Have your cards to reference, but don't sit there and
awful.
It's terrible. Know your shit when you go in, and refer to it. Make sure you're just like, I'm just making sure I covered this, that. Okay, yeah. And then throw it aside. And I've seen some interviews.
Much for all of that insight into your directorial styles and directing in general. I think a common thread between directing films and directing documentaries is your intuition and your empathy, for either your actors or the people that you're interviewing.
That's about all it is.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, I mean, just reading the room. Really understanding the situation, and whenever, I'm sure it's the same with Adam, every day on a set or every day when you're going to film an interview, the circumstances are not a foregone conclusion.
Nope.
You don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know what the situation is. You don't know who's in a bad mood, who's not in a bad mood. You don't know who knows their lines, who doesn't know their lines. You don't know if this person has ever done an interview before or doesn't want to do this interview. They're enthusiastic. You don't know until you get in there on the ground, suss it out, and roll with it at that point. And that's unexpected things. I remember having to do an interview with a producer who was a very prickly person and barely got this interview. So I was very nervous. It's just like nothing could go wrong. Nothing must go wrong because I'm barely getting this guy as it is. And we get to his office, which was in a skyscraper in downtown Manhattan. And we're hooking up the lights and we're setting up in this conference room. It's like, oh God, let this go smoothly. And our lights were set up, and all of a sudden our big light goes out, and I was like, oh God, the bulb went out. Oh my God. No, we had blown the power to his office. The whole floor went out. And I remember going, okay. How far are we up? We're on the 27th floor. That's great. Could you open one of those windows there, please? Because I'm just going to jump the fuck out right now, and because I'm done. I don't want to be on this planet anymore. Fortunately, I found out that this happened all the time because the wiring in this building was notoriously shitty. But the lights we were using, this was before LEDs, so they drew a lot of power. So we ended up having to run all the lights to like 6 different circuits in the building. But fortunately, the guy wasn't in a bad mood about it. But when that power went out, I remember thinking, all right, I'm done. Bye. But we were, thankfully, my cameraman, who I worked with for many years, he was just like, we're going to fix it. We're going to get it done. I'm like, okay. And we got the interview done, and he came in, and it was hilarious. So he came in, he was like, all right, I have 15 minutes prepared. Start recording. I'm like, yes, sir.
Yep.
And he recorded. And then I had to, it felt like a Senate hearing because after it was over, I just had to I leaned in. May I ask a couple of follow-up questions, please? Yeah, you may. Thank you very much.
Reclaiming my time.
Yeah. So it's like, 1 second. Yeah, we do. Yeah, because we're good. You know, it was very much like that. But again, that's one of those situations where you just, well, we're going to have to roll with this, I guess. And I'm sure Adam has any number of times on one of his sets where something just goes horribly, horribly astray, and you can freak out, or you can just be like, okie dokie, how are we going to recover from this shit?
Yeah, freaking out does not get it done.
It doesn't help at all.
Never
helps. It's never. I have freaked out a few times in the past, and has never once helped a goddamn thing.
Nope.
No.
All right. Well,
it's entertaining, maybe, but
for all of us, actually. So we're all horror fans. We've had levity. We've had tears. I cried earlier. We've had insight. We've had everything that I was hoping we would have for this show. But we got to bring it back around to the scary. And now is the time on the show that we call the Scared Shit List, where we talk about what's actually frightening in the movies that we're discussing. And yes, Jason Goes to Hell has some actually frightening shit. And so what we usually do is just take turns talking about what we found to be actually scary in the movies that we're discussing. And for me, and I'll cover both Jason Goes to Hell, throw it to Slinky and Aaron, and then ask you guys. For me, the fear in Jason Goes to Hell was when Erin Gray, her character, gets killed, and then we find out the dark secret about who she is and the baby, and it was just all very psychologically terrifying to me and frightening. And then also, she was one of my childhood crushes, man, and to see her die was, traumatizing, so that was the scariest part for me in Jason Goes to Hell. Aaron, Slinky, how did you guys feel about the frightening aspects?
Think as a woman, my favorite or my scariest moment was Michelle Clooney's death. The obviously being sliced in half while you're, going and coming at the same time. Yeah. But I love, first of all, I love Michelle Clooney anyway, but like, I love that whole scene because it's very explicit. And when it happens, you're like, oh my God, like it's like something out of Pieces, even though even Pieces is not that explicit. But it was still, it's still unnerving and very like frightening as, just as a woman. It's like, holy shit, like just sliced in half. Okay. That would probably be mine. I think anytime a character, I think the movie, one of the things that the movie succeeds at doing is that it gives you these very endearing characters, and it doesn't give you cookie cutter dickheads like some of the other of the franchise. There's no real there's no real Teds, and there's no real whatever that other dickhead's name. There aren't any of those types of characters, so when those characters die, you feel it so much more.
Yes.
It's such a more just like it is just such a more deeper death, really, when those characters die, is it's like, oh man, like, oh, I really like that. There's one scene, I can't remember her name right now, and I'm sorry. I'm sure all the boys will say, but the not the lead, not Carrie, obviously.
Oh, you mean Allison Smith?
Yes, Allison, and she's having her Linda Hamilton moment, and she's got her gun, and I'm immediately like playing Bikini Kill in my head, and I'm like, yeah, and then she gets it, and you're like, God damn it, like that was definitely a moment for me, because I was like, man, I really thought she was gonna make it too. But yes, those are my scared moments.
Slink?
Just for me, knowing the fact that when you watch the earlier Friday the 13th movies, it happens to like teenagers and stuff. There's only a few adults in the movies. And when you watch Jason Goes to Hell, these are grown-ups doing grown-up shit. And Jason, out of nowhere, is disrupting that. And like that was always kind of scary, I thought. It's like, well, he can go after anybody, kids or adults, doesn't matter who you are. But it's nice to know Jason's disrupting like everything. You can't take your kid to the sitter, Jason.
Yeah. Michael, what are your thoughts on the
can't
fear?
Go to get a Voorhees burger, Jason. kind of cool. So it's pretty.
Yeah, the thing about the Voorhees burger is it's shaped like a hockey mask, but you're losing meat because they're taking holes out. It's
Holes
like
out
this
of
is
it.
bullshit.
Yeah, but you use that to make another burger.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm getting ripped off here just for having a hockey, and I'm not going to see the fucking thing because it's going to be between the buns anyway. You know what? Fuck that place. I'm glad it got blown. Everyone got killed there. Now that I think about it, they were ripping us the fuck off by doing stupid shit. Well, I don't know. No. We should have covered that in the documentary.
We should have. You're not wrong.
The diner was really screwing people. Yeah,
it really was.
Anyway, what was you? I'm sorry, Micah. You asked me something about.
Yeah, well, just the horror, the terror, the revulsion. We often talk about the 3 levels of fear that Stephen King brought up in Dance Macabre. What are some of the ones that stood out for you in Jason Goes to Hell?
Jason Goes to Hell was for me such a fun movie. It was like, again, the Friday the 13th movies are like a roller coaster ride. There's jumps and frights, but I think the thing that freaked me out about Jason Goes to Hell was really 2 things that kind of go hand in hand. One was the idea of being trapped in your own body and someone else is in control of it. That to me is almost like it's like you've had a stroke and your body you're just trapped in there. Like there's a moment that comes at the end. It's a completely unrelated movie, but it kind of relates to it. At the end of Being John Malkovich, where a character is literally trapped inside the mind of his own daughter, basically. And forever will be trapped, having no control, but only being able to see. And that's my nightmare. That's my nightmare of being just like absorbed into something else, but still aware of it. And so that's in Jason Goes to Hell. What freaks me out is like, are you still aware of everything that Jason is doing in your body? And then when he finally does leave you, you turn into a big puddle of fucking goo.
Yeah.
So it's not that he gets your body back. You get it back for a few seconds. And then the toxicity of Jason just melts your fucking body slowly over the course of several minutes. So yeah, that was disturbing. Yeah, that was one of the things where it's like, oh man, it's just bad news all over the place. If Jason. So yeah, not only do you have a giant worm going down your throat and then being subsumed by a murderous monster, and then the murderous monster leaves you and goes into somebody else, and then you melt into a big puddle of goo. Wee! This is like, that does sound like hell, and that kind of goes back to my whole thing. Is it's the loss of who you are. It's loss of identity, loss of self. Yeah. Which, John Carpenter's The Thing is the high watermark for that. Ooh. Because what I love about watching that movie is, and it's strange for a movie that's as much of a downer as that is, it's a glorious downer. It's a downer that I dive into the deep end of every time I watch that movie, because I'm always like, the eternal question for me is, do you know you've been taken over by the thing?
Right.
Do you really know? I mean, you must know to some degree because you sabotage the blood supply, or you set this up, or you put a piece of McCree's clothing in the furnace. So you must be aware. But do you like zone out during those moments and then come back and wonder what the hell you did? I mean, it's there, and I love the fact.
I think Palmer is the most interesting version of that, because when he's sitting there and they've discovered that he's the thing,
right?
There's a look on his face that's sort of like, oh,
yeah,
fuck.
All right. Fuck
right
it,
before he opens up, like I got caught.
He does that little kind of well, they got me.
Yep.
But again, it's like, how much is he aware of this? I mean, and that's the scary part. It's just like, do you even know? Do they recreate you to such a degree that you're not even really fully aware that you are what this? And so those are the things that really freaked me out. That and random, unexplained, unmotivated violence. Things that, it's one thing if you brought it on yourself, or you engaged knowingly in a situation. But like for me, nothing has ever disturbed me more in a movie than the home invasion sequence in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh, absolutely.
Sweet Lord.
Because that's like, that shit happens. Yeah. Not only does that shit happen, but it's like, it was just, they just picked some people.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just picked some people. And then,
by the way, it's the greatness of the last moment in The Stranger.
Yeah. It's just
which, they've driven that into the God knows what.
Because we can, yeah.
Because we're home.
Yeah,
you were there.
Yes.
You were there.
Yeah.
By the way, have any of you seen ILS, the French film?
No, I haven't seen it.
It is literally The Strangers. It is where they got the whole movie from. Except it's a husband and wife. They are not They don't hate each other. It's not all the same kind of very American sense of dread. But it's a couple who are being terrorized by people who are in their home. It is so terrifying, and the last image of that movie you will never forget as long as you live. It's that, and it's, by the way, it's not a gory movie. That's not what it is. It is truly just terrifying. But if you're a fan at all of the original Strangers, you have to see this movie. It's the American title would be They. But it's ILS is the
awesome. That's
amazing.
what's going on our short list.
I really recommend it. Yeah, I think you'll love it. I think you'll love it. Yeah.
So, Adam, I mean, you tried to do so many, and you accomplished so many things with Jason Goes to Hell. But when it comes to the fear, the terror, the horror, the revulsion, what were you going for, and what are you most proud of?
Well, Michael nailed it because look, the when people think that I stole from The Hidden, which was a movie I had not seen up until I had already directed Jason Goes to Hell, which, by the way, just so everybody understands, the studio that made
both movies.
Jason Goes to Hell made The Hidden.
And I find it funny that not one person went, "Hey, Adam, guess what?" It's just like
no one. I mean, Bob Shea produced that movie, and he never said to me, "This is kind of like The Hidden, Adam." Not once. So for me, I wasn't cribbing The Hidden at all. I was cribbing The Thing, which, by the way, The Thing has been in every movie I've made, including Secret Santa. There's literally a quote from the movie.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, I love when someone in England dinged me for that and was like, stealing the line of dialogue. I was like, stealing? Do you understand what a fucking homage is? And by the way, I'd like to see your reviews of all of Quentin Tarantino's movies right now, please.
Right.
Yeah. But that said, the thing is, and I think Aaron and Slinky, you guys know this, but I've never drank alcohol or done drugs in my life, and part of that is I'm a control freak, and I don't ever want to feel out of control. I don't want anything else taking over my subconscious to do what it feels like doing, and so Jason Goes to Hell is really based in that fear, and the thing is the best version of that, which is just this sense of like, you're no longer driving the bus, something else is. And so there was something terrifying about that concept. And again, Secret Santa is about people getting drunk on something they shouldn't have drank in the first place. And that id takes over, and you are no longer driving that bus. Yes, you're still there, but you're doing things that in a normal moment you would never fucking do. And so, look, when Officer Josh, when the evil leaves Officer Josh, when Jason leaves Officer, that to me is the most disturbing moment of Jason Goes to Hell, because here's this incredibly sweet, innocent guy, and he really is a lovely man, who, I mean, he gets eaten alive from the inside. That's what a horrifying way to go. And so for me, that kind of typifies what I wanted the movie to be, scary wise. Here's the problem. All of the sequels, all of the big franchises, whether it's Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, Friday, et al. The minute we get to the third movie, it's usually the third one. The first two movies were scary. That's why they made a franchise. The first movie was terrifying. You watch Nightmare on Elm Street, it's fucking terrifying. That movie to this day is still scary. You watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there has never been a scarier movie made. Doesn't exist. It is raw terror. By the time you get to the third movie, and in some cases the second movie, they're comedies. Mm-hmm. And they're roller coaster rides, because you're no longer you're not on team victim, you're on team Freddy, you're on team Jason. Now you just want to see how cool that kill's going to be. And usually the filmmakers, i.e. the studio, decides, hey, don't make those kids so likable, because we want the fans to have fun watching them get fucking murdered. So that's only going to happen if you make them jock idiots or, or mean girl bitches. Right? So make them mean, get them naked, kill them, and rinse and repeat. And that's all of these movies. The thing about Jason Goes to Hell was that I never wanted you to know where the bad guy is. Well, the only way you're going to give a shit about that is if everybody in the movie is interesting, and everybody in the movie, you care about them. Look, even Joey B, who is a stone cold monster, okay? This is a woman who has no problem making money off everybody else's sorrow, okay? But you better not touch that fucking ray of sunshine. She falls in love with that baby. Anyone who falls, and by the way, not only that, she loves Leslie Jordan. Anyone who loves Leslie Jordan can't be all bad. It's impossible.
Right.
So you're in love with these people, so you're worried for them. I will tell you, every theater that I went to watch this movie when it played live, the amount of upset during the diner sequence, because you lose Joey B, you lose Leslie Jordan, and then you lose Allison. You lose Vicky. Those are three of the people you've been rooting for in this movie. You know, not to mention poor Ward, who is so adorable when he goes out the door pretending to have, when he's got the gun, he's like, he's a badass all of a sudden. And immediately is punished for it, you know? So yeah, for me, look, I have to fall in love with my characters in order to get rid of them and feel anything. And that's what I wanted to give the audience, because they hadn't had it in so long in the Friday the 13th franchise. They just didn't. You'd have a final girl that you gave a shit about, and Tommy Jarvis, of course, you give a shit about. Not much else.
No, and the trauma from those deaths feels earned. You know, it's not you know, a quick story and then you kill them. It's, you developed those characters, we got to like them, and now they're dead. You know.
And look, by the way, I think part 2 does that brilliantly. Part 2 is like, look, for me, it's part 6, part 2, Jason Goes to Hell. Those are my three favorites of the franchise. And the thing about part 2 is, you know, yes, Ginny is the bomb. Like, I mean, come on. Amy Steele, just come on. But I have to tell you, there's a lot of those characters that are really lovable, that you really kind of go, no, I like these people. Like, I would hang out with these people. Well, if they're people you would hang out with, watching them die is very tough.
Yeah,
and
that's why I love
movie.
6. Yeah, like you mentioned 6.
Right.
6 is one of my absolute
100%.
favorites.
100%.
Because I love Jennifer Cook, and you know, and Tom Matthews is just adorable, and everyone in that movie, you're like, oh man, like the sheriff's a dick, but like, I love the fact that he was so devoted to his daughter.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
And Horseshack, for crying out loud. Oh, no, not Horseshack.
But people used to really, look, filmmakers, especially the ones that make the first movies of these, look, no one walks out of Halloween, the original Halloween, not feeling a sense of loss with those 3 women, or the 2 women that die. You care about those girls. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't see PJ Souls to this day and not go, oh. I just do. Totally. I totally do.
Yeah, you do.
You know? I do. So, yeah, that for me, that's what I was trying to do. And to varying degrees of success, I think we got there. You know, and look, I mean, my brother is the last person to have that sucker inside of him, and he gets his fucking head cut off for it. So, which was very fulfilling for a guy who wrote Secret Santa.
But his head returns in Secret Santa, so
it does, and it gets skull fucked.
Yes, so let's segue real quick to Secret Santa.
That's what. By the way, that's what happens when your brother is out of market.
Secret Santa. So I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to think of anything scary because it is a horror comedy, but it does bring the scares. And I thought about it and the psychology of the truth serum, and actually having the balls to do that to your family. And on top of it, the government creating this fucked up serum, you know, and somebody being able to get their hands on it, and what can happen, you know, with shit like that in the wrong hands, and let alone a government, you know, creating something like this. So for me, that was the big scare in Secret Santa, you know, besides just the family psychology itself.
And nothing's scarier than family. Nothing.
Absolutely. And there it is.
Nothing. Again, that's why, halfway through that movie, it's like, I don't need bad shit to happen. Just listening to these horrible fucking people spew bile. And I also love the fact that the way that you guys wrote that movie was so great. There's a lot of bile and name calling, but it's the under the breath shit. It's the little asides and the little things that they say that on the surface aren't like, what is that? But then you could tell that it was a cut. It was a mean cut to the person across the table. And Deborah's the worst of it. She's just, my God,
a monster.
No, it's like the worst matriarch since the grandmother in the ref. I think it's just like, oh my God, just like, ugh. And if you get to know Deborah at all, it's just like, she must be a great actress because she's nothing like this bitch at all.
Nothing like her. Nope.
You know,
and she reminded me of every customer service representative I've ever had say, you have a nice day.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want me to have a nice day. You want me to die.
Deborah had 20 some years of training to play that role. So because it is based very heavily on a real person, and Deborah watched and knew what she was doing. No, Deborah's.
Now that's scary.
Deborah's a genius. She really is. She's an unbelievable actor. I mean, honestly, we wrote that movie. I came up with that movie for Deborah. That was literally why I wanted to do it. And then we wrote a script that just let her play. But Michael's right. Family is the terror of that movie. Like and Penny says it so well. At the end of the movie, she says, "When this family loses its id, we fucking want to kill each other."
Right. Yeah.
And
once that veneer of civility goes away, it's just like, oh, we're all just nasty, horrible, bitter people that really don't like each other at all.
Yep. Yep. And it's when Kyle is like, yeah, but I still love you. And again, there's only two people in that whole movie that are innocent. There's only two, which is Kyle and Jacqueline, the stripper. The two of them are the only innocents of the movie. They're the only ones who really don't want to hurt anybody and are truly good people.
Right.
And it doesn't save them by any means, but
no.
But they are good. Look, the fun for me of that movie is that, it is based way too heavily on my family. I mean, really is. And April, played by A. Leslie Keyes, and Penny, played by the brilliant Ryan Seaton. The two of them are both me. Those are the two sides of my personality. So, and that was very clearly defined when we started breaking down the script. I was like, no, I want both sides of me fighting each other. Like, that's where the conflict is these two women going head to head, because one is the people pleaser and trying to make everything nice and trying to bring the family together and everything's good because of her own fucked up problems, and the other one is the one screaming into the void going, can't anybody be fucking honest, and calling everything out. And so those are both parts of my personality, and they are constantly each other. So yeah, it was the movie was psychologically cleansing to some degree. It's better than being on a couch.
And there's got to be. There's got to be a T-shirt at some point, that has "Don't make this weird. It's not gay if he's dead," which is like a point. I guess. I mean, it's a weird hill to die on, but all right. It's just.
Yeah. Do you know that became a hashtag in England? It's not gay if he's dead was a hashtag.
That's one that could be really taken out of context and used incorrectly.
Big time.
Yeah, that's we.
I was about to say, my girlfriend and I watched it together. She had never seen it. I've seen it about 3 or 4 times. She's not a big horror fan, although she's starting to get into it more, with my show and everything. And she absolutely loved it. And like Slinky and Aaron, it has become a tradition for us as well, because it is so real. We all have family shit, and to see it presented the way it was, it's become a classic for us. So, Adam, I mean, you outdid yourself, man.
Thanks, man. The funny thing is, every festival. By the way, the festivals that we did best at were non-horror festivals. Non-horror festivals, we kept winning Best Picture, which is great. The thing about the movie is it's the horror movie for people who hate horror movies,
right?
Because they still can. There's enough comedy and there's enough seeing themselves that they can remove themselves a little bit from the horror element and enjoy themselves, and they still get scared at parts, which is great. So there's still the thrill there, but it's really about recognizing yourself and seeing, how bad it can all go.
It's a morally rotted Hallmark movie.
Yes.
It's just, it's the antidote. So if you ever get yourself watching one of those, then watch Secret Santa and go, oh, yeah, this is more like it. This is more what I know.
Which is really ironic because Michael Rady, who plays the suitor,
is now my sister, who watches those movies, a lot. I was like, do you recognize this guy? And she's like, oh yeah, he's in all the Hallmark movies.
He's the king of the Hallmark movie.
He's the king of the Hallmark movie.
Oh yeah, the king of the Christmas Hallmark movie, no less.
Yes.
He's always either in a button-up.
Oh God, you're right. I'm looking at his credits right now. Jesus.
Yep.
Good for him, man.
I know. Oh, he's a working actor. He's amazing. By the way, he's also Custis, the Greek boy in the Sister of the Traveling Pants. Yeah.
Traveling Pants. Yeah, and he played the dickhead fiance of Kristen Bell on House of Lies.
He sure did.
That's how I knew him from that, and I was like, oh, I know, I recognize that motherfucker.
God, this is the worst title for any of these Hallmark movies I've ever heard. Where are you, Christmas?
Oh God.
Oh,
Oh no.
I think a part of my soul just died.
It's me, Margaret. Oh God.
I could
Yeah,
hear the announcement of the latest Hallmark movie. Where are you, Christmas?
Michael was my my neighbor for years and years, and that's how we got to know. I would be up at 3 a.m. writing in my garage. I have a studio in my garage, and I would open up so I could have it open air anytime I wanted it. So I'd have that open, and he'd be right across from me with his garage open, doing building furniture, which is his other business. And the two of us would just be up till middle of the night, and we'd end up just talking for hours and hours. And I said to him, I said, "You want to be in a horror movie?" And he was like, I said, "You want to be in a horror movie?" He goes, yeah. I said, "Cool, you want to know about it?" He goes, "No, it's yours, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, no, I'm in." I was like, "Great, done. Yeah, he's amazing. Michael's amazing.
All right, we've got a little under 10 minutes before my girlfriend actually kills me. So
Awesome, love that.
Are we going to get to watch that happen? Is that something that...
That's the end of the podcast. That's the spectacular finish.
Yes.
That's the Secret Santa finish to this thing, where everything just goes to shit.
Like Daffy Duck, I can only do it once.
Right. My final question for you guys, and we're going to bring it back around to the scary. Your personal scariest movie, not necessarily the scariest movie ever made, but the movie that scared you the most. Mine is Wes Craven Presents They. Not a great movie, but it scared me the most.
Wow.
How about you, Mr. Marcus?
I mean, I can tell you the moment that scared me the most in any movie, and it's still a great movie, so I have no problem saying it, but the moment that really did chill me to my core was the hearse driver in Burnt Offerings.
Ooh.
Creepy.
I mean, years and years and years of terror of that guy. And what's really horrifying is that my mother started dating and then moved a guy into the house that was literally the doppelganger for that actor.
Oh my God.
And I'm telling you, when he first walked in the door, my brother Kip and I were both like, "Oh my God, Burnt Offerings!" I mean, it was like... And by the way, the guy was an abusive, physically and mentally abusive, alcoholic scumbag. He was worse than the hearse driver. So yeah, I guess that's the most scarring and scariest moment.
Awesome.
Yeah, Michael.
We'll end on Michael. Aaron, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think the scariest movie I think that I've ever seen was probably Black Christmas, the original. That was the one that really kind of chilled me. It was the very first time I'd ever really been scared. I had been such a huge horror fan, and I had seen the 100 greatest horror moments on Bravo, and I was like, well, shit, I gotta see Black Christmas. Like, I'm a huge Bob Clark fan anyway, because I'm a huge Porky's fan. So I said, oh my God, huge. So I said, all right, let's go rent it at this little tiny mom and pop store. And I watched it, and from the moment that first phone call happened, I was like, I had a blanket, and I was like 24, and I had a blanket like up to my chin, just like, this is fucking horrifying. And then after it was done, I rewound it and I watched it again, and I loved it. I loved it. It was just, but it scared me to a point where I would take it to slumber party. Like in my 20s, I had like a group of girls that we would hang out and watch scary movies, and they would be like, yeah, bring over a scary movie. I'm like, okay. And I'd bring Black Christmas, and there was like screams and just, like, oh my God, that movie was so scary. But to Adam's point, the scariest moment of a film, to be 100%, keep it 100, as the kids would say, is the last 10 minutes of Looking for Mr. Goodbar. Anybody who's ever seen it knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about.
That rips your soul
haunts
out.
me. It haunts me to this day. Like, just being like 46 years old and just being like, nothing will ever upset, disturb, scare, stick with me than the last 10 minutes of Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
And you know what? Yeah. You know what's awful is that you would not be allowed in any way, shape, or form to make that movie now. And honestly, now is when we actually need a movie like that.
We do, because there are people out there, like, not to get political, but there are people, there are men starting rape groups, and just there's things like this that are happening, and all the women I talk to who are single and are out there, and they're just like, dude, it is bad.
On
Like,
dating apps where people are faking their profiles and every other goddamn thing.
bad, So yes, if ever there was a time that Looking for Mr. Goodbar probably needs to be remade, it's definitely now. So
Mr. Jallo.
The movie that messed me up was The Vanishing.
The original Vanishing.
The original,
yeah, the
right?
original one.
Yeah,
because I'm weird. If my girlfriend just disappeared, I would become obsessive about it too, and I would want to know what happened, and I would probably end up in a coffin in the ground because you showed me what happened. Yeah. That's terrifying to me.
Yep.
So that movie kind of messed me up because once I saw it, I watched it all the time, and I was like, "This is terrifying. It's really scary." And I'm a big guy, so like usually that type of shit doesn't scare me, but that does. So the
Excellent, Michael.
I don't. It's funny. The movies that have scared me the most are the moments where actually not necessarily horror movies. Like when I was a kid, the SETI eels going into the ears of Chekhov and Terrell in Star Trek 2. Now, what's really weird is I had to leave the theater when that moment would happen because I couldn't stay, and I would wait till I heard it was over and come back. But later on, when the eel comes out and the blood drips out, I didn't have a problem with that. But it was them screaming in pain as the things are going in. That's what freaked me out. Or in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Marion stumbles into all the skeletons, and then the snake comes out of the one skeleton's mouth. I couldn't be in the theater for that. And then, movies like Superman 3, of all things, when she gets turned into a robot.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Scary. That is
Until
scary.
she comes out in the fright wig, and then it all goes away.
Yes.
But it was moments like that. But in terms of horror movies, the first one that comes to mind, because it freaked me out as a kid, little Ralphie Glick at the window in Salem's Lot. That scene
terrifying.
fucking freaked me out. But then there's two other moments that I can think of that I was jolted by in theaters. Because I'm usually pretty good about knowing when a scare is coming.
I know one, but go ahead.
One is in Seven, which is a brilliant fucking movie. But you're not ready for that body on the bed.
Sloth. Right,
Sloth. You're not ready for that thing to move because you think it's a dummy.
Yeah.
And then when you got what you deserved, and it goes, and it just, and everyone goes, oh my God, he's alive, and then they cut to a shot, a quiet scene in the hospital or a morgue or something, and you could hear everybody in the theater going, fucking goddamn Jesus God, oh my God. The other one, Exorcist 3.
That's the one.
I'm in that movie, first day. Packed house. I'm in the middle of a theater, and the hallway sequence, he just locks the fucking camera off, and it's like this ballet. People going in, coming out at just the right time. So you're always ill at ease, but you're always comforted by, well, there's a security guard back there, or she's over here. And then they fake you out. She goes into a room, and the patient goes, hey, what are you doing in here? And you think, oh, that's the scare. But then it keeps going and going and going, and then boom, out comes that fake. I have never seen before, and I have never seen since, an entire theater of people levitate
and
then drop the fuck back down. It was, everybody just went, wow, boom. And everybody was just laughing and like crying for about 5 minutes. Because it was such a brilliantly, that was one of my favorite things in the world I ever got to do, was to sit across from William Peter Blatty in his house and go, do you realize how messed up how much you fucked people up with that scene and how brilliantly you played that out? And he was like, yeah, that was fun. that was a lot of fun. But those two moments really, as a viewer in the theater, and especially with something like Seven, when I saw that movie, the theater I saw it in had the air conditioning jacked all the way up. So it was freezing in there, and that just did something to the whole rain-soaked feel of that movie. So I loved. I'll make this quick, but what I loved about that movie and what kept me on the edge from Seven from the beginning to end is like, I have not seen this movie before. I don't know what's going to happen next. When they're driving out at the end, I was like, I honestly don't know what the fuck is going to happen. And it was after a period of movies where it's like, okay, here comes the scene where they do this. Here comes no surprises. And it was so thrilling to be sitting in a movie theater going, I don't know what the fuck is going to happen next. I have no clue. I can't. Oh my God, this is amazing. So I love shit like that. It's rare. It's very rare that happens.
And that's what it's all about. What a great way to end the show. Yes. And so thank you again, Michael and Adam, for coming on. Where can anybody find Hearts of Darkness?
Right now, just go to synapsefilms.com. But if you want to order internationally right now, you can go to Orbit DVD or you can go to Diabolic DVD and order it there. We don't have many copies of the limited edition left. There's only a few that are left. And so if you can grab that, but there will be another edition later on, but it won't have everything that the double disc has. So if you really want to get everything, and you really do, because otherwise, I'm just not going to think very much of you. So go ahead and with it. Yeah, just go get it. But it's been doing very well, but there aren't many left. So
okay, Michael Felsher, Adam Marcus, thank you again so much for coming on the show. This was such a thrill for me. So audience, give us some feedback on this one. This was a great fucking show. Until next time, stay shitless.